Welcome, friends, to this, our worship for the 18th Sunday after Pentecost. This is Florence United Methodist Church, and I'm Reverend Bert Schneep, filling in for the Reverend Dr. Karen Love Basinger, who is on a short leave. We are situated on the Central Oregon coast, the beautiful area just to the north of the Oregon Dunes. Join us now for our worship this morning.
Jesus, lover of my soul, let me to thy bosom fly, while the nearer waters roll, while the tempest still is high. Hide me, O my Savior, hide, till the storm of life is past. Safely to the haven guide. Oh, receive my soul at last. Other refuge have I none. Hangs my helpless soul on thee. Leave me not alone. still support and comfort me. All my trust on thee is stayed, all my help from thee I pray. Cover my defenseless land with the shadow of thy wing. Thou, O Christ, art all I want, more than all in thee I find. Raise the fallen, cheer the faint, heal the sick and lead the blind. Just and holy is thy name. I am all unrighteousness, false and full of sin I am. Thou art full of truth and grace. Plenteous grace with thee is found, grace to cover all my sin. Let the healing streams abound, make and keep me pure within. Thou of life the fountain Lord, freely let me take of thee. Sprinkle up within my heart, rise to all eternity. Our God in heaven, holy is your name. Your reign come, your will done, on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and help us forgive as we have been forgiven. In the time of trial, lead us into light, for yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Our God in heaven, holy is your name. Holy is your name.
The reading today comes from 2 chapters of the book of Esther in the Old Testament. When King Xerxes and Haman came in for the banquet with Queen Esther, the king said to her, "This is the second day we've met for wine. What is your wish, Queen Esther? I'll give it to you. And what do you want? I'll do anything, even give you half the kingdom." Queen Esther answered, "If I please the king, and if the king wishes, give me my life. That's my wish, and the lives of my people, too. That's my desire. We have been sold, and my people to be wiped out, killed, and destroyed. If we simply had been sold as male and female slaves, I would have said nothing, but no enemy can compensate the king for this kind of damage." King Xerxes said to the Queen Esther, "Who is this person, and where is he? Who would dare do such a thing?" Esther replied, "A man who hates, an enemy, this wicked Haman." Haman was overcome with terror in the presence of the king and queen. One of the eunuchs serving the king said, "Look, sir, there is a scaffold Haman made for Mordecai, the man who spoke up and did something good for the king. It's standing at Haman's house 75 feet high." "Hang him on it," the king ordered. So they put Haman to death on the very scaffold that he had set up for Mordecai, and the king's anger went away. Mordecai wrote these things down and sent letters to all of the provinces, both near and far, of King Xerxes. He made it a rule that Jews keep the 14th and 15th days of the month as Adar, as special days, each and every year. They are days which Jews finally put to rest the troubles of their enemies. The month is one when everything turned around for them, from sadness to joy, from sad, loud crying to a holiday. They are to make them days of feasts and joyous events, days to send food and gifts to each other, and money gifts to the poor. Thank you, God, for your gracious gift of Scripture.
Hate crimes against Asian Americans have been up recently. This past year, we've seen the videos. We've seen those Asian Americans walking down the street, and then suddenly they get kicked or pushed or hit over the head. And it's because they're being blamed for the coronavirus. It's irrational. In the past 6 years, hate crimes against Muslim Americans have gone up dramatically in this country. Mosques have been targeted with graffiti, bullets shot at them, set on fire. Muslim women have had their headscarves yanked off in public or even in the school. And Muslim men have had their lives threatened and called terrorists. And in these last couple of years, anti-Semitism has been up in our country. Mosques, temples, synagogues attacked. Jewish people have been threatened, murdered. Being a religious or an ethnic minority has become more dangerous here in the United States in the last few years. The book of Esther is about a religious, ethnic minority being in danger. It's also the story of power and the power difference between men and women. Let me tell you the story. It begins with a big party. The most powerful man in the world, Xerxes, king of the Persian Empire, is throwing a big 7-day party. And on the 7th day, after everybody's quite drunk, he sends a message to his queen, Queen Vashti, telling her to come into the party, wear her crown, and show off her beauty to everybody. And she sends a message back, essentially saying, "No, I'm not coming." Now, this sends King Xerxes into a tizzy, as well as all the male officials of the court. "Oh my goodness, a woman has said no, the queen has said no to the king. What's going to happen to the Persian Empire? It'll crumble if wives start saying no to their husbands." They got to take drastic action. So King Xerxes decides that Queen Vashti has to be thrown out of the Persian Empire, banished, can't come back, can't be queen anymore. So he does that. So now he needs a new queen. So he goes to his male counselors and he says, "All right, how should I get a new queen?" And they say to him, "Well, how about if we scour the empire for the most beautiful virgins, and then we'll take them and bring them here to Susa, the summer capital, and we will put them in the royal harem. And then each night you can test them out and you can decide who you want for your queen." Well, this sounds like a good idea to Xerxes. So he says, "All right, carry it out." And so women, beautiful women from all over the Persian Empire are being brought to Susa, including a young woman named Esther, who actually lives right there in Susa. She has a cousin by the name of Mordecai, who is he's adopted her, and so he's been looking after her. And then when she's taken to the royal harem, he decides he needs to make sure that she's okay. So every day he goes to the gate of the palace and just kind of hangs out there so that he can always be sending messages in to Esther to see how she's doing. And Esther can always be sending messages out to him to let him know how things are going. Well, after all of these beauties are brought to Susa and put in the royal harem, they are then subjected to a 1-year beauty treatment program. And then at the end of that 1-year beauty treatment program, well, King Xerxes spends the night with each one of them to decide which one is going to become his queen. And according to the story, he loves Esther more than all the rest. And so Esther becomes queen. Now, during this time, because Mordecai is hanging out at the palace gate, one day he overhears about an assassination plot against the king. He sends a message to Esther telling her about this and saying, you'll warn the king about this. And she does, and so because of that warning, the assassination plot is thwarted. And Mordecai is recorded in the royal records. Mordecai the Jew thwarted this assassination attempt. Now, King Xerxes has an official who's above all the other officials, above all the other counselors. His name is Haman. And Haman is honored in a variety of ways, including that the king has commanded that wherever Haman goes, wherever he walks, everyone is supposed to bow down to the ground in front of him. Well, one day, as Haman is coming out the palace gate, everyone bows down to the ground in front of him except one person, Mordecai. Mordecai just stands there. Haman's servants go over to Mordecai and say, how come you're not bowing down? And Mordecai just simply says, I'm a Jew. Now this infuriates Haman. I mean, what kind of impertinence is this? And so Haman decides right then and there he's going to have Mordecai executed. He begins work on a scaffold where Mordecai is going to be executed. But not satisfied just with the death of Mordecai, he decides he wants to exterminate all the Jews in the empire. So he goes to King Xerxes and he says, King, there is a people here in your empire who do not fully assimilate. They have their own laws. They have their own values, and they put those laws over your laws. And so, obviously, you cannot tolerate these people in your empire. Put it into my hands, and I will see to it that they are all exterminated, and I will make a big contribution to the royal treasury. Xerxes takes off his signet ring, gives it to Haman, and says, go ahead and carry out your plan. So Haman then puts out an edict that goes all over the Persian Empire, which says that on the 13th day of the 12th month, everybody in the Persian Empire is supposed to attack and kill every Jew they can find and take their property. Now, when word of this edict spreads, Mordecai, the Jewish community, is, of course, horrified by this. And Mordecai sends a message into Esther saying, Esther, you've got to go to the king and you've got to tell him to rescind this edict. Esther sends a message back saying, I can't. I'm not allowed to enter the king's presence without his permission. He must summon me. If I were to enter the throne room without permission, I would be executed, unless on chance he were to pardon me. But he has not summoned me for over a month. I don't think I'm in favor right now, so I can't do it. Mordecai sends a message back to Esther and says, you're going to die either way. All the Jews are going to be attacked. Maybe they don't know you're Jewish yet, but they're going to find out, and you're going to die too. And if you don't do this, well, deliverance will come from somewhere else. But Esther, consider this. Perhaps you've become queen for just such a time as this. Esther sends a message back to Mordecai saying, tell the Jews in Susa to fast. Fast for 3 days. Eat nothing, drink nothing. I and my servants here in the palace, we also will fast for 3 days. And then I will go to the king. And if I die, I die. 3 days later, Esther puts on her royal robes, looks as pretty as she can, and she walks into the throne room without permission. King Xerxes is shocked to see Esther coming in. What impertinence is this? But he's also curious, and he is fond of her. So he holds out his royal scepter, which is a sign of pardon, and Esther moves forward and touches the scepter, acknowledging that she has been pardoned. And then Xerxes says to her, Queen Esther, what is it that you want? Whatever you want, up to half my kingdom, just ask. And Esther says, what I would like is for you and Haman here to join me for a banquet that I'm hosting today. So a little bit later that day, the king and Haman show up for this banquet with Queen Esther. They're eating, they're drinking, the king's in a good mood. He says, all right, Esther, now tell me, what do you really want? Up to half my kingdom. And Esther says, what I want is for you and Haman to come to another banquet tomorrow that I'm hosting. Now, Haman is getting really excited by all these invitations. He's never been invited to special banquets with the queen before. He tells his wife, wow, this is the second time I'm being invited to a banquet. It's just me, the king, and Esther. This is great. That night, King Xerxes can't get to sleep. He's tossing and turning in bed. So he calls for one of his counselors, one of his officials, and he says, yeah, bring the royal records and just read them out loud to me. I mean, what could be more boring? What could put you to sleep better than listening to the royal records? So this official is reading through the royal records and happens to get to the passage where it talks about Mordecai the Jew had thwarted an assassination plot. And the king says, well, that's interesting. Did we ever reward Mordecai for that? What reward did we give him? And the official looks through the records and says, well, no, we never did reward him. So the next morning, King Xerxes says to Haman, Haman, what do you think I should do to reward someone that I want to honor? Now, Haman thinks that King Xerxes is talking about him, Haman. So Haman says, oh, well, if you want to honor someone, I think you should give him a royal robe, give him a royal house, give him a royal crown, give him a parade, have a pronouncement that says this is how the king honors those he wants to honor. And King Xerxes says, oh, I like that idea. Okay, I want you to carry that out for Mordecai the Jew. Well, Haman is absolutely devastated by this. But he has to carry it out, and he carries it out that very day. Later that day is the second banquet. So, King Xerxes and Haman show up at the second banquet with Queen Esther. They're having a good time. And then King Xerxes says, all right now, Esther, really, tell me, what is it you want? Up to half my kingdom. What do you want? And she says, I want to live, and I want my people to live. There is someone who has plotted against my people to exterminate them. And the king is flustered by this. He says, who's planning to kill you? Who's planning to kill your people? Haman. He's planning to exterminate the Jewish people. And I'm a Jew. Well, the king is totally bowled over by this. He's frustrated. He doesn't know what to think, and he stands up and he strides out of the room. Haman, seeing that this could be big trouble for him, he approaches the queen, throws himself on her couch, and pleads for mercy and consideration. King Xerxes comes back into the room, sees Haman kind of stretched out in front of the queen on the couch, holding her, and he says, "You dare to assault my wife, the queen, in my own house?" And he orders Haman to be executed. Haman is executed actually on that same scaffold that he had built for Mordecai. Not only does Haman get executed, so are his 10 sons. Queen Esther says, "King, please now rescind your edict against the Jewish people." And King Xerxes says, "I can't. It's already law. But I'll tell you what, here's my signet ring. You can write an additional law to counter that law." And so Esther and Mordecai write a new edict that says that on the 13th day of the 12th month, any Jew who is attacked may defend himself and kill the attacker and take the attacker's property. Well, now that the people in the Persian Empire see that the tide is kind of turned as far as who's in favor, who's not, there's a bit more reluctance about attacking the Jews, although on that day, there are many people who go ahead and attack the Jews, although the Jews are ready and they are lawfully allowed to defend themselves, and as a result, they actually kill 75,000 people who attack them that day. But they don't take any of their property because the Jewish people weren't doing this for the money. This is so successful that Mordecai and Esther extend the law for one more day. And on that second day, the Jews again defend themselves and kill 300 more attackers. And ever since then, the Jewish people have been commemorating this event, this time, when they were saved from extermination. This story is full of comedy, exaggeration, tragedy, triumph. It also ends on what to me sounds like a kind of vindictive note that troubles me a bit. But this story also has some very powerful truths to tell us. One of those is that government is responsible for the welfare, for the protection of religious and ethnic minorities. Another meaning here is that men need to not be abusing their power. This is an unfair arrangement between men and women. Another meaning is about God and our loyalty to God, which is ironic because God is never mentioned in the book of Esther. And yet God is there. God is implied. After all, when Esther says, let everybody, all the Jewish people have a fast, well, who are they fasting to? Who are they appealing to in that fast? God is never mentioned, but it's pretty clear that's who they're fasting to. When Mordecai tells Esther, if you don't do this, if you don't go see the king, well, deliverance will come from somewhere else. He doesn't say God, but I think it's pretty clear. He's depending on God to bring about deliverance. And then when Mordecai refuses to bow down to Haman. He gives as his reason, he says, I'm a Jew. Well, why is it that a Jew would not bow down? Because a faithful Jew knows that his or her loyalty, his full allegiance, belongs to no person, no leader, no nation. It belongs to God alone. This story is telling the Jewish people who are living in a pagan empire, be good citizens in that empire. Be like Mordecai. If there's an assassination plot against the king, doesn't matter if you like the king or not, stop that assassination plot. Be a good citizen. But remember this, your values come from God. They don't come from the state. They don't come from a political party. They don't come from some human ruler. Your values, your law, what is right, what is wrong, comes from God. And live by that. And this story, I think, is telling us one more thing. You have a purpose. God has given you a purpose, regardless of who you are, regardless of where you're at. Wherever you're at, God can use you in that situation. And God is counting on your courage and loyalty to carry out God's will. So this story is an important story. It has great meaning for us today. Perhaps the book of Esther was written for just such a time as this.
Give to the winds thy fears, hope and be undismayed. God hears thy sighs and counts thy tears. God shall lift up thy head. Through waves and clouds and storms, God gently clears thy way. Wait thou God's time, so shall his light soon end in joyous day. Leave to God's sovereign sway, to choose and to command. So shalt thou wandering on that way, how wise and strong is found. Let us in life and death thy steadfast truth declare, and publish with our latest breath thy love and guardian care.
Hey everybody, it's Patty in the Pumpkin Patch here in kind of nice Eugene. It's about 80 degrees this evening and it's fall. And as you can see, there actually are pumpkins. So just wanted to say, happy fall and stay safe, and we will see you soon. Take care. Bye.
Good morning, Florence United Methodist Church. This is Nancy, sitting in my garage just to kind of give you a sneak peek at my very exciting bags. This is how I pre-sort as the months go by, my plastics and things that I'm taking for a take back event. So first I want to say hi. I hope you're all healthy and I hope you're all doing well. I wanted to remind you that on Sunday, October 3rd, we're going to have our very last recycling take back event of the year. So hope you've been saving some of your plastics. That's going to be from 11 to 2. And while they do say that the first hour is for seniors and those that are disabled, the waits are usually a little bit longer that first hour. So We'll do whatever, is most comfortable for you. We try to make things speed along. We have a little shortage of volunteers this time, so I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but maybe we'll get some more people at the last minute. Anyway, if you have any questions, please call me or email me. Encourage everyone to check out EcoGeneration website. It's www.ecogeneration.org. And you can learn about all the different categories and things that you can bring. And anyway, that's my exciting news. Not a very stunning visual background I got there. But that's my life. Take care. Bye, you guys.
God has been with us in this worship service. And now God goes with us as we continue our lives wherever we may be. The places and the times are not always as we would wish them, but we know that God is with us wherever those places may be, and especially for times like these. In the name of the risen Christ, amen.
I want to thank the United Methodist Church. I believe your investment on education will not be in vain. I'm Dinkin Calbert. We are in Jalingo, Nigeria. I've been a United Methodist all through my life, and I graduated with a master's degree in environmental management. I grew up witnessing the degradation going within our environment. You see erosion everywhere, you see pollution everywhere, and I saw the need to go and gain more knowledge to be able to tell people what it takes, what they need to do to reduce the problems that are so predominant in our area. With Lisa, my mentor, we are in touch of environmental scholars. There are people that study in the health sector. There are people that are doing research even in the environment, and there are other people that are also concerned about poverty in other parts of the country. We want to develop a network of concerned activists who will develop a study on the environment for the church. By giving to United Methodist World Communion Sunday, it will empower me to be a solution provider to the people within my community and the church at large.